Welcome back to the Amid the Mess podcast, where we talk all about the health and well-being things within the context of life, with a family and a busy job. So the chaos of life. So today we had on Heather Angell, who is an integrative leadership coach for high achievers who feel like they've lost their spark. Heather has been doing this for 10 years, and before that she worked as a bank manager for NatWest. And she'll tell you all about the story of how she went from being the bank manager to doing what she does now. I loved my chat with Heather, and we mostly talk about authenticity. So what actually is being authentic? How authentic is too authentic? What is fake authenticity? And maybe as a parent, should you be bringing your parenting things to work? You know, what is, should you, shouldn't you? What are the pros and cons? Where do you stand? So it's an interesting conversation. It's especially relevant to me because, as you probably know, I have two children. One of the youngest is now 10 months, so I'm still at home every day with our 10-month-old baby. So I show up on LinkedIn holding my baby all the time. And that's just what I'm doing at the moment. And I feel like that is authentically me. So am I doing myself a disservice showing up? Are people thinking, oh, she's just a mum. Her podcast isn't very serious. I don't know. So we go into that topic. So have a listen if that all seems interesting to you. Before we get into it, I thought I would introduce just a little tiny section here where I just tell you a little bit about me, where I'm at the moment. So baby Daisy is 10 months old now. We've just been going through some really challenging nights with both the children ping-ponging awake. We've just had a sick bug in the house. Ugh. So this week I've been feeling really, really drained. So that's where I'm at. But I am feeling much better now. Talking to a guest always livens me up. It re-energizes me. So I'm really pleased that I did this little episode today. So I just thought I would share that with you. If you're tired and a bit burned out, you're not the only one. Now, without further ado, here is the episode with Heather Angell. Heather, you are a coach who helps a lot of people with confidence at work, self-leadership. You work with everyone, but you also work with a lot of busy parents. Mm-hmm. So I would like to ask you, what does it mean to show up authentically at work?
Yeah, and authenticity is such a buzzword. I think we see it all over social media, and truly to be authentic is going to be different for everyone, because I truly believe from my own experience in working with clients is that you can only be authentic if you truly know who you are and you feel truly grounded in who you are, because then you're not ever going to be coming across from a place of people pleasing. You're not going to be coming from a place of, oh, I don't know whether I can say that, who's going to judge me. You just speak freely, knowing who you are, what your values are. And then there's authenticity is just natural that way. That's what I truly believe authenticity is about. It's not this buzzword. There's a lot of fake authenticity out there. But when you really know who you are, what you believe in, and your own truth, that then is authenticity.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. So in a bit, I want to go into fake authenticity and what it is and stuff. But another interesting question that came to my mind, and when I was chatting to friends about this episode, is sometimes as a busy parent, how authentic is too authentic? You know?
Yeah. And this is the biggest pitfall I think people fall into. They feel like if they're going to be authentic and true, that they have to show all of who they are in all scenarios. And I'm like, no. That's not the case. You don't, there's if I'm in a business meeting with someone, I'm not going to be like, oh, and at the weekend I did this, this, this. I'm like, no, you don't need to know about every part of my life. And the same on social media. You can be authentic and true without sharing absolutely every single aspect of your life and who you are. And I think
Mm,
that's the problem. People think, oh, to be authentic, I have to share everything. I'm like, you really don't. And sometimes it's better not to. So
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
about, it's literally just being true to who you are. And like I said, your values, your beliefs. And if you're gonna, if you use LinkedIn purely professionally, and I know we'll probably have a conversation about all that kind of stuff, but if you're using a platform purely professionally, then everything you share needs to be intentional with a professional aim to it. Whether you're a business owner, it's like, well, actually, are you sharing a struggle you've had because it's going to resonate with your audience? Or are you sharing it because, oh my goodness, I haven't done an authentic post. I better tell them that my life's a mess this week so that everyone knows that everything's okay. So it's just, you can be authentic, but it doesn't mean that you have to share absolutely everything all of the time.
Okay, so would that then be like fake authenticity? Like I haven't done an authentic post today, so here's what I'm having for lunch, kind of thing. Is
Yeah.
that what you would say?
Yeah, well, I think the fake authenticity goes hand in hand with the vulnerability, people being like, oh, well, I'm going to be vulnerable, so I'm going to cry on camera. And it's like, that's not necessary. If you are
Mm,
talking about something and the raw emotion comes up and you cry, I think that's absolutely fine. I've definitely done that on a couple of occasions on my Instagram, because it's been something very raw and passionate that has just brought up raw emotion. That's fine. When you're like, oh, I've just had a breakup, there's an opportunity to be vulnerable. I'll tell people about it and I'll make sure I'm crying. And I'm like, ooh, you people are not authentic. You're giving me the ick. That is just fake vulnerability to try and drum up some kind of following or some kind of sympathy or something. So that's never authentic if it's not coming from a place of truth. And if you're looking at this
mm,
video, oh, I need to do an authentic post, I'm like, well, are you saying that all your other posts are inauthentic? Then there's a problem.
yes. If you're going in with the mindset of, okay, my post on Tuesday is going to
Mm,
be authentic Tuesday kind of
yes,
thing,
exactly.
then that's by definition not authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. And I think that's where people trip up. That is where people trip up. And I can understand, I work with people who struggle with this all the time. So I can completely understand how we fall into that, because you see so much of it. And when you see people sharing so much of their lives, you can fall into trap and go, oh, well, I should do that because that's what you're meant to do. And it's like, actually, one of the biggest tips I can give people when it comes to like sharing authentically is there are certain things that you will always keep private. Those things that you don't ever want to share, that you are either they're, I don't share much about my children. I'm like, my children have their own lives and they're their own beings and entities, and you will very rarely see me talk about them on socials, and there's never a picture of them on socials. That's my personal choice. Other people, completely different. So it's all down to the individual about what you feel you need to share. And there's no right or
Mm,
wrong as long as you are doing it from truth rather than trying to be authentic.
yeah, trying to kind of people please or
Mm.
kind of fulfill this picture of what you're trying to look like.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
it's a
interesting.
strong word I'm about to use, but it's like it's manipulating your audience to try and be like, oh, well, look
Mm,
at me, I'm doing this. Or, I see it on each extreme. We talked about like people going on and crying and being like, oh, I'm a real human too. Look at me, I'm crying and I'm really sad and things happen. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. Especially when it's very, very first world problems. You're like, all right. Um,
yeah.
but then equally, it's just anything you're sharing, if it comes from a contrived place, if you're trying to be like, oh, well, if I share this, then that will make the audience feel this way, and I'm like, well, that's borderlining on manipulation if you're not careful. Have a
Yes.
structure with your content, but if you are truly whole within yourself and you know yourself and you trust yourself, authenticity isn't even something you think about. I don't think about it at all. I don't have to think about like, oh, is this me? I'm like, well, everything I say is me. I'm at that place where
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, I know who I am and what I say. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't, and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, are you the same you in different contexts? I mean, let's say different professional contexts. Would you be a different you in front of some type of clients and then maybe different you at a conference, or for
To
example, or yes.
Yeah, so to a point for sure. And this is where, again, people get tripped up. It's like, well, I'm not the version of me that's hanging out with my kids on a Saturday afternoon, messing around, sitting around in my joggers and just chilling. That is not the me that's going to rock up to a conference where I'm like, right, I'm going to win business today. That's a very different brain I'm putting on. So, and that's adaptability, especially in the workplace. Like, you go in, like if I'm going to a conference or a big networking meeting, I go in with a very clear intention of like, right, who are the people I want to be speaking to? Who do I want to connect with? And I will go in with like, I'm showing up as the absolute boss that I am, and I'm speaking about business. If I meet people there and they're like, how are the kids? I'll have that conversation, and if I've had a really stressful day, I will not lie about it. I'm like, my gosh, I just need a coffee and a chat, and it will all be true. But equally, that's going to be very different to if I go into a room of a couple of people who know me really well. I'll be like, okay, well, I don't need to win any business here. We're already working together or something like that. And again, the persona that I will show up if I'm working with a therapy client, very different. I like the way we're talking now is quite animated. I'm quite chatty and quite loud sometimes. Put me in a therapy space with a client, you get a very calm, quiet, regulated version of me, completely different to
Yes.
the person that you'll see a few hours later if I'm on the school run. So
Oh yes. Yes.
that's personality and that's who we are. But I'm still true and whole in each of those scenarios. I'm never having to now, and I will, I've been in business 10 years. This definitely wasn't the case 10 years ago, but I'm never having to be like, right, I've got to put on a front or I've got a mask. I'm still me. I just know how to adapt me to whoever I'm speaking to.
That's interesting. So it's adaptability, not inauthenticity
Yeah.
that you're, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I kind of liken that to, I've taught a lot of exercise classes and I have like an exercise teaching persona. I'm like, I get in front of the people and I'm like, yeah, we're going to move today.
Yeah.
And actually it's a very different me, but it's very much me from other situations. So,
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
the thing, if you're, I wouldn't want to go to an exercise class and the trainer comes in or the instructor comes in going, hey, right, lift your weights. You're like, whoa, this is not the vibe I came here for. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's you being a professional and showing up and doing
Yes.
your job to the best of your abilities. Even if I would imagine, even if you are exhausted and even if you've had a really frantic day and you're like, okay, but now I'm stepping into this mode and I'm going to crush it because this is what I do.
Yes. Yes. Adaptable. Interesting. Yeah. So you did mention before you've been in business for 10 years and you weren't always like this. So we've been
No.
talking a little bit about the real authenticity and also the fake authenticity. But what about a lack of authenticity? What does that look like? And you alluded that there might have been a bit of a thing for you in the past. So what happened for you?
Well, you cannot be authentic if you are trying to people please or if you are worried about judgment or all of that kind of stuff. And that was me. I was a chronic people pleaser up until mid-30s probably, and it's only really even throughout my divorce I was a people pleaser. I was like, oh, let's just make sure everything goes well, and I'm like, oh, should have probably been like, I'm going to get myself a lawyer and make sure I do this right. But I was just very, as long as everyone else was okay, that's fine. I never spoke out of turn. I didn't, things might happen, in the business, and I wouldn't necessarily speak up for myself. I was quite, my social media, I look back now and I'm like, my gosh, I was just, everything I did was like, oh, are they going to like me? Are they going to, oh, should I wear this? How should I, the clothes I chose was like, well, that's what you should wear if you're a business owner. And this is how you should speak and all this kind of stuff. And it's painful. It's so exhausting when
It's
you are
tiring.
operating. Oh gosh, it's awful.
Yes.
And it's so draining operating from that way. And very hard to have like quantum level success when you are operating from that, because you are never actually following your path. You're just trying to fit into whichever box you feel like you're supposed to be in. So yeah, I was a chronic people pleaser. And I think that's, I know we've spoken before the call about, as women, we are conditioned to keep the peace. Don't ruffle any feathers. Just, be nice, be quiet, and, just do as you need to do. But don't complain about things or anything like that. And I'm just not that person anymore. It's just,
Yeah. Oh,
I,
good.
yeah, it's taken a lot of time. This is something I say to my clients. I was like, a lot of them meet me now and they're like, oh, well, you're so confident, blah, blah. And I'm like, not 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was just trying to figure it out like everybody else.
And
So,
what did that journey look like? Like, how did you take steps to lose that people pleasing nature?
so I think, and you may resonate with this, becoming a mum changes things. I was always,
Mm.
I was a bank manager before I went self-employed. I had a big team. I was very successful. I potentially had at the time before the banks all closed and whatever's gone on in the industry, I potentially had quite a good career path ahead of me. And then had my first son and then loved my year of maternity. Absolutely loved it. It was just beautiful. And I was like, this is great. I was like, why don't we just have lots of children? I was like, this is amazing. And then when you have two, you're like, okay, this is why we don't have lots, like, because it's actually really hard. But I absolutely loved that year, and then went back to work. I was working. My son was in childcare 50 hours a week. I was working. I was a
Mm.
bank manager, and my husband at the time was working abroad a lot, and it was horrendous, horrendous. But I didn't know in my head, and I don't know whether this is conditioning or I'd done it to myself, I don't know, but I was like, well, I'm a professional woman and I've worked really hard to get this career. So yes, I've had a baby, but my value and worth and identity is as a professional female working in the banking industry. So I couldn't quite get my head around who I was. So I tried to be both.
Mm.
And I just
Mm.
felt exhausted. I felt like I was doing a really rubbish job at work. And I felt like I was doing a really rubbish job. I mean, I was barely seeing my baby. I would pick him up.
Mm.
I would literally put him into nursery. I mean, I would do things so differently now, knowing what I know. But I put him into nursery at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was the first mum there, kind of take my child because I've got to go and run a bank. And I would be the last one screeching up, last one running in. Sorry, I'm late. 6 o'clock. Take my baby. I would literally bath him, feed him, and put him to bed. I wasn't seeing him all week. And I was like,
Mm.
wow. And I look back now
That's
and I thought,
tough.
oh, it was
Yeah.
horrible. But I just didn't know what else to do because I was
You
like,
were
well,
conditioned to think that that is the only identity that you were allowed to have, I
yeah,
guess.
I was like, well, I've got to manage it all because the nice little memo we got in our generation is like, yeah, you can have it all. But by the way, that means you have to do it all. And I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm
And
so exhausted.
miss out on important things on both sides.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly, exactly. And it's incredibly difficult. And people view you differently. I don't know whether you've ever experienced this. I'm sure some of your audience would have. That I remember once I'd announced that I was pregnant when I was at work, I was all of a sudden the pregnant woman. People just want to talk to me about the pregnancy. I'm like,
There's more
whoa,
going on.
I've got like 5 years business experience of running this bank. Why is no one talking to me about the stuff they've always talked to me about? And now all they want to know is, how's the pregnancy? Da da da. Have you bought this? I'm like, oh God, I don't want to talk about this stuff. I'm at work. So it was very, very weird, very, very strange time. So I think
Yeah.
there's that identity shift. And, and I know fathers have this as well. I work with a lot of men and I know dads step into this as well and go, oh my goodness, I'm now responsible for this little human. And they take another role of responsibility, I think, of like, I've really got to earn the money. I've got to make sure I've got all this, everything lined up to, make sure I'm taking care of my
Yes.
family. They're
Yeah.
piled on with this extra
Added
pressure.
level of stress because of
Yeah,
that heavy kind of
absolutely.
on your weight on your shoulders. Yes.
Yeah, again, because of their conditioning of like, well, it's your job to be the provider. So I see it from both sides. And I think that identity shift, I actually don't know. Had my second child was born 3 months premature, and I don't know if that hadn't happened. I'm not quite sure where I would have gone because if I'd put both of them in childcare, I would have been taking home 30% of what I was earning because the rest would have been paying for them to go
Oh
into
gosh.
childcare. And I'm like,
Yes.
this seems kind of crazy. But because he was so premature, he wasn't well enough to go into childcare. He was quite poorly. So thankfully the stars aligned and redundancies came around all at the same time. And I was like, thank you very much. I'm out of here. And then, like a crazy lady, decided to set up a business. But again, that's where I didn't give myself permission to. I had so much of like, well, if I'm not working, I'm not of value. If I'm not bringing in an income, what value am I to the family? Like I'd been the main earner up until having children, and then my husband surpassed me because I, had that year off. But the very idea, I don't even think I even considered just having a year of being mum to two very young children. It didn't even
Yeah.
cross my mind. I was like, well, if I'm not working, I'm going to set up a business, obviously.
With all that free time you have.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And, to sort of answer your question of where did it all start, it was around 2015 for me, where I was just like, right, I'm going to be, not have a job. And I'd lost myself. I was like, there's no me time anymore. And I read a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, which some of your
I've
listeners,
heard of it.
yeah, so some of your
Yeah.
listeners might be familiar with that. Now, it's not something I massively endorse now, but at the time, I absorbed that book like it was oxygen, because all of a sudden it was like, hey, if you just get up really early, you can have some time to yourself. And I was like, yes, I can. That's a genius idea. So, and I got to give it to Hal Elrod. That book, I think, it was a starting point for me of going down this self-development route and kind of tapping into who I was. And, I would get up at 5 a.m. and I would go for a run and I would do my meditation. I would do the things that he would suggest. Side note, obviously it's written by a guy who at the time I don't think had a family and all that kind of stuff. I'm like,
oh gosh,
yeah, the 4 a.m. club, it doesn't really work when you're like working with, got children as well. But I'd get
and you're
home.
breastfeeding through the night.
Oh gosh, exactly. So I'd get home and get showered, and then my husband would go to work. I'd look after the children all day. We'd then have dinner together. And then about 9 o'clock, I'm like, great, now I can work. And I would work between sort of 9 and midnight. And then I'd repeat that cycle.
And then you'd wake up at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, because that was my only time.
What?
Because if I didn't get up at 5 o'clock, when was I going to have me time? Like, this is how the cycle was. And I don't know how. I mean, I managed to do it. It was kind of for about 18 months, really.
Wow.
But it would get to Friday, and that 5 o'clock was like, that was hard, because I was like, I'm pretty tired. And then the weekend, it never happened because I was exhausted. And I look back now and I think, you crazy woman, what were you thinking?
It does sound a bit crazy.
Yeah, but this is where I think it's so difficult for parents, because it's insane how we live nowadays. We're just trying to do everything. And that was when I had a husband. And I mean, in some ways now it's easier when I don't have a husband, because I know exactly what's being done as and when. But, that was two of us in a household bringing in, I mean, I wasn't bringing in a huge amount because the business had only just started, but he was bringing in salary. We had a nice life, but we had to work damn hard to kind of do it all. And I look back now and I think, oh, I missed, my kids are teenagers now. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm never getting those baby years back. Yeah, at the time I was so desperate to reclaim myself and be like, I just need something for me.
And do you feel that self you were trying to reclaim, was that your authentic self, or was it like an idea of what you should be?
Yeah, and it wasn't my authentic self. I'm not even sure I'd heard, like, I don't think there was that much stuff about like being authentic around back then. I mean, I only heard the word mindset back in 2015 and I was like, what is that? Now everyone's talking about it. I was just trying to find me. I didn't know who I was. I was like, well, I don't really know who I am as a mum and a wife, and I'm not a career woman anymore. And, and bear in mind, up until about the age of 25, I was convinced I wasn't having kids. I was like, who'd do that? Like, why would you have children? They're exhausting and expensive. And then, I don't know, I blame it on hormones. All of a sudden I was like, oh, I really want babies. Yeah, when I had them.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So how did so you were chasing this kind of idealized version of a person who could do it all, who could exercise, who could work, who could also be stay-at-home mom. And how did you then disconnect from that cycle and really connect with your true authentic self as you are now?
So my path isn't the path I'd recommend, because
Oh.
mine ended up being a path of self-discovery, which unfortunately made it very clear that there were very big gaps in my marriage. So I was kind of growing and progressing and wanting to learn, and I was like, oh my God, actually, I'm a very emotional person, and I'm married to a very stoic person, and it just very, very quickly made me realize there's a growing gap here. And eventually we did end up getting divorced after during lockdown. And ultimately I kind of hit rock bottom, because in 2021 I just was like, I don't know what like the divorce had settled, me and the children had moved into a rental, which I've never rented. I was always privileged enough to be in a position to buy. And
Mm.
all of a sudden I'm like, whoa. And then I had this other title of like, oh my God, I'm a single mum in a rented house with 2 kids. And my brain went, you've lost at life. What have you done? Like,
Mm.
what are you now? And that was the kind of, again, stigma. And it's just ridiculous now I think about it. But I'd gone from married woman, 2 kids, nice house, the car, the tick list. I ticked all the things. I'd had the career, I got the kids. I'd still managed to magically stay a size 8, which again in my head I thought was important. I was like, all these things. I'm like, I've crushed life. I've done it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, and now I'm a single mum in a rented house. And I was just like, oh my God, what the hell? And so
Mm.
from rock bottom of not really wanting to be here anymore, I worked with different therapists and coaches to just figure out what the hell my life was supposed to look like, because I didn't have this future vision. I think that's hard to know who you are if you don't even know where you're trying to get to. So yeah, it was a long process. It's taken about, I would say, 5-6 years to
Yeah.
dig the real me out. But it takes, I think what people misunderstand is they think, oh, they've got to do more and learn more. Actually, what I've experienced and what my clients experience is actually it's peeling away all the bullshit, really, like all the
Doing
layers.
less, I
Yeah.
guess.
And peeling back all the masks and the conditioning of like, you know, yes, it's really good to stay healthy and exercise. I'm all for it. Highly recommend it. But you don't have to stay a size 8 your entire life to be worthy of of love
Yeah,
or anything like that. And I was like, yeah,
absolutely. Or even
yeah,
to be healthy. Absolutely.
exactly,
A size
exactly.
8 could be very
Yeah,
unhealthy for
exactly.
people. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's really about peeling back so much. And I realized as a wife, I'd put this pressure on myself. I was like, oh, well, as a wife, then I need to be this kind of person. I need to behave in this certain way. And it's just kind of realizing all the beliefs that you've been telling yourself and living by that have never been yours. They were never mine. I just,
So it's a process of really introspection and really realizing which of the beliefs that you carry are internalized from society's
yeah,
expectations and what is actually your true nature,
yeah,
not like superimposed on you must do this, you shall
yeah,
be this.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's not easy. I think this is the trouble. It's not that much fun sometimes, because you're like, oh, and you have to be really honest with yourself. And I talk about it like you've got to look at your shadow side. Like, where are the areas where you are kind of really sabotaging yourself, and victim mindset? And that was something huge for me. I realized unknowingly, having that kind of, oh, I'm a single mom and everything's really hard, kind of gave me a get out of jail card for me. So if things didn't go too well, I was like, well, I'm a single mom, it's really hard. And I'm like,
Ah, yes.
oh, yeah, you need to
Oh,
like
pity
shift
me.
that. Yeah, poor me. Throw a pity party for me, because obviously I didn't sign that client, or obviously I can't grow my business to this scale because I'm a single mum and it's really hard.
Okay.
It's not
Yeah.
easy, but falling on, you've got to be really honest with yourself. Like, where are you making excuses, and, living by those excuses rather than actually just getting off your ass and making
Yeah.
stuff happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not always comfortable.
Thank you for sharing that story. It's really interesting to hear your whole background. And I'm sure the listeners will have kind of, yeah, really kind of got into it. That was such an interesting snapshot.
Oh, you're
Um,
welcome.
but I'm so kind of going back to the listeners who might be busy parents. Um, so what are the ways that they might undermine themselves when they're at work. Um, thinking specifically in the context of parents, if they're going through a tough time at home, how can they, yeah, undermine themselves at work in an inauthentic way?
So, sorry, can you reword the question for me? So, in
Yes,
terms
yes.
of if they're going through a tough time at home, how it
Yeah, like
impacts.
someone's struggling at home a little bit. Well, not struggling, but they just, got the busy life, the children, the school pickups, the whatever, all the admin associated with all of the stuff.
Mm.
Um, what are things they might do at work that are inauthentic and not helpful for them? Like maybe they should be more open about the fact that things are tough. Yeah, other ways in which people are hiding things and burying things
Mm.
that are not serving them at work.
Yeah, and I'm going into work and pretending that absolutely everything is fine is a coping mechanism if things aren't fine. However, what I think, and people might not expect me to say this, I sometimes being able to go into work and switch off from the chaos and just put on that
Yeah.
hat of, oh, okay, I'm at work now and I can be work Heather and I can just do my thing and people will, speak to me in a certain way and everything and I can just be fine for 8 hours and not think about everything else that's going on is perfectly fine. If it's a coping strategy that is working for you, the difference is then if you're going back and then that's into the chaos and that's what's really difficult for you, you need to address that. Like, what is it that's really difficult? Do you need to have a conversation with your partner? Is there stuff going on with them? Is it, whatever it is that's overwhelming, what can you do to work on that? Now, on the flip side, if you are, if you're struggling with your mental health, if you're actually just going in, I've had it myself and I've had it with clients where they're literally showing up to work and they've been crying in the car 5 minutes beforehand and then they're just putting on this mask of, I'm fine, everything's great. I'm like, no, 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 no. That is just exhausting for your nervous system. It's not something that's sustainable at all. It's very different from being like, holy cow, I'm just really rushed off my feet, but oh my God, I'm at work now. That's very
Yeah.
different. If you're really
Yes.
struggling, it, it really depends on the employer. I would love to say, speak to someone, open up. Can you have a conversation with your HR? Can you have a conversation with your manager? But unfortunately, I know from my clients that tell me that unfortunately, that is not the ideal workplace we live in. It's very
Yeah.
different, I think, when you work for yourself or if you work in a team of, like, if you're with self-employed people or, for example, if you're going into a fitness class and the other teachers, you can kind of go, oh my goodness, I am struggling today, this, and you can just be very open because a lot of people will just be open with you.
Yeah.
If you're going into and I will say, unfortunately, I would say male-dominated industries are the trickiest. If you're going into a very hustle, results orientated, potentially male dominated industry where it's like leave home at home, you're at work and there is no wiggle room, there is no well-being strategy at that place, there is no open communication or emotional intelligence going on, that's very, very difficult.
And I imagine if you were a parent, I mean, I think even for fathers this would count going
Mm.
into that because a lot of fathers are also very sleep deprived in the early years. I mean, if my husband's one thing to go by, he's often just as sleep deprived as I am.
Mm.
Um, for those sleep deprived parents, they might be at risk of leaving that industry because it's
Yeah.
not supportive in that way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing is, I'm really pleased that we're mentioning dads as well, because I work with a lot of men and they're under an enormous amount of stress. And it is
Yeah.
not, unfortunately, again, because of the world they've been brought up in, it's not just commonplace to pick up the phone to their mate and go, do you know what, mate, I've had a really bad day. Or, if they go down the pub, I used to say it to my husband, I was like, oh, how's so-and-so, how's this, how's that? They're like, I don't know. Talked about football. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like,
I
well,
have exactly the same
yeah.
thing.
It's like, well, how are the kids? What's going on? Has he changed his job? I don't know. I'm like, how do you
Yeah.
not know?
How's his
You've been with
health?
the
How's
guy
his
for 3 hours.
thing?
So how can you be with people for 3 hours and not know any of these answers to these questions? He's like, we watched the football and had a couple of drinks. I'm like, oh God. So, yes, men are starting to open up more, but only if they've got that kind of friendship, if they've got, or if they've got a really supportive partner where they can have those open conversations. But in the workplace, unless they've got a work peer or a manager, someone that they feel is a safe space to open up, they're just bottling it all up.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult. And, to touch on what you mentioned there about people leaving, the only reason I left the banking industry was because I was pushed out, basically. There was no place for I was just like, there must be a part-time role or something I can do. No, I really felt like as soon as I'd had children, I'd been cast as, they were like, oh, she's no use to us now. I didn't even get my branch back that I mean, knowing what I know about HR now, I'm like, good Lord, woman. Again, I was just an absolute pushover. Went back on maternity leave and they'd given my branch to someone else. They were like, oh no, you're not having that back. We thought you'd go part-time. No,
But
I
then they
want my
didn't even
job.
offer the option of part-time.
No, didn't offer an option of part-time. They like, you can step down. I'm like, right, so I'll halve my salary. And no, thank you.
Yes.
Like, so
Yes.
I was pushed out basically of employment. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges businesses facing. They are losing so much talent in women specifically. I built a business whilst having two babies.
Mm.
I could have done amazing things for the company. I was still very, very productive. I was still of high value, but they were like,
Yes.
because you can't fit into our stupid 9 to 5 thing that we must do. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I was working 9 o'clock until 1 in the morning and I did amazing work. So
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
there's this whole, we are losing so much talent in the females that we are losing in work, because once they have kids, they are just faced with this dilemma. And it's, this is where we have the pay gap. I mean, that's a whole other podcast, but
Yeah. Oh, that's a big topic. Yes.
yeah.
This is a story I've heard in one of my friends. I'm not going to name her name, but she got made redundant during maternity leave.
Mm,
Exactly the same. So much talent, like, makes me crazy.
yeah.
But anyway, so I'd like to talk a bit more hypothetically. So I have a bit of a mission. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
As you know, you've probably seen my posts on LinkedIn, perhaps.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like, I don't know, at the moment with men and women both working as much as each other, or at least intending to, trying to make things as equal as possible, the work and the parenting is all combined, really. Dads are
Mm,
trying to step up more and doing more parenting as well. Um, it's not often that very old school separation of man works, woman's full time at home. It still
yeah.
happens, and if people want to do it, that is also wonderful for them.
Yeah.
But so I'm kind of thinking, I would love to see more people be able to show up. I don't want people to be posting about their baby specifically, like, oh, here's my baby in a nice outfit. But I'm doing like almost like a personal movement. Like I'm coming on talking about my podcasts, but holding my baby, because
Mm,
authentically at the moment, I am holding my baby all day long,
yeah.
mostly, because that's what I'm doing at the moment. So it's like, this is at the currently me, and I'm just coming on in a professional way, but with a baby in the shot as well.
Mm,
And I don't know what your opinion is. And maybe I am undermining what I do because everyone's like, oh, she's just a mom at home. But I think it's really important to show mums and to parents to show children, not to hide them. So
mm.
what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think you're absolutely spot on that the like dads are stepping up far more, I think. And I know plenty of male business owners, and they share pictures of their kids all the time, and they're off. It's 11 o'clock on an afternoon, and they're at the park with their child because they can, because they run their own business, and that's why they've set up a business so they can spend time with their children, which is just
Yes.
beautiful. What I do think is interesting is my perception is that there is a different perception when a woman does it than when a man does it. I
Mm,
think when we see a man who is, like I said, this one particular one in my mind, shares lots of stuff about his kids, I can't imagine for a second anyone goes, well, he can't possibly be running a business very well because look, he's out at the park with his child.
He must
I
be doing
do.
it so well
He's
that
obviously
enables him to
crushing
do
it
it.
because look at him. He's able
Yes.
to be a dad and he's running a business. That's amazing. Whereas
Yeah.
I think I do feel like as women, it's looked upon as like, oh, she's a mum, so she's not really a business owner. Like it's just a side hustle. I freaking hate that term. Like, oh, it's just a side
Mm.
hustle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we're just that bloody amazing that we're doing both. We've not only grown and birthed this human, we're managing to take care of it and make bank at the same time. Thank you very much. So, in terms of showing up with your baby, absolutely, it's authentic. I do. I mean, this podcast is so beautiful and it covers so many different topics and it really sheds a light on so many different areas that parents are struggling with, working parents are struggling with. What I would say, and it'll be interesting to know your views on this, and it might land with your audience, might not, but I also think it's really sad that we live in a time where actually the mother can't just be like, great, I'm here for the baby. Or a parent
Mm.
can't just be there for the baby, because we live in a time where actually I don't know many friends where they could survive on one income. It's an expensive world out there.
Yes.
It's all by design, that we've just been told, right, well, great, women can work now, which I do not believe was ever about women's rights. It's just they can tax another 50% of the population. So like, great, women here, you can go out to work, as we quite rightly should be able to. But it's now been this expectation that, but you still need to have the babies and somehow take care of the house, and you need to do it, but still work. And it's just sad that we've got to that point where, you know, if the woman is having an amazing career, that there's still probably not the opportunity for the dad to go, great, I'll take care of the house. I don't, you know, I'm not, this is not a conversation about gender, but just the roles. Like, looking after a house is a lot of work. It's
Yes.
so much, it's a whole job in itself. Raising children, one of the most important jobs you're going to do. If you choose to have children, you've taken on like one of the most important roles ever, because you are
Yes.
responsible for
Yes.
raising these into fully functioning human beings that are going to eventually go out into the world. And that is huge.
Yes.
And we're just missing so much of the important stuff because we're just rushing around, because we're like, well, hang on a minute, I've still got to make money and I've still got to do this. And it's just, we live in this time of just constant push forward, push
Yeah.
forward. And
Yeah.
so
That is a shame.
it is a real shame. And I think, to your point, we need more people to be like, yeah, I'm, you know, it's a Wednesday afternoon and I'm just, you know, just signed a great client and I've just done this deal, and now I'm going to go and take my baby to the park, because like, that's what life is. It's a juggle.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I,
Interesting. Yeah,
mm,
good to hear your thoughts. I've had the thought many times, because I've been juggling with, do we put our baby in nursery when she turns one, or what do we do? Or, we settle on 2 days when she turns one, and I was going through like ups and downs of being like, oh, and like, yes, I need this for me. But in my head, I feel in an ideal world, women and men, parents would have the opportunity to take like 2 years of maternity slash paternity paid leave just to fully look after their children. That would be ideal,
yeah.
but also idealistic. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, and again, so there's two things there. Like, from a business mind perspective, I'm like, that's horrendous. Like, can you imagine a business would never employ a woman ever again? Because it's like, no.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
every man would be like, you need to have a vasectomy before you work here, because we can't afford this ridiculous long paternity pay and keep the
oh
business
god,
running and keep your role. And they're like, not a chance. So the biggest issue I think we have is, as a society, we have moved away. Like, we are so far away from being human, it's ridiculous. We are tribe people. We are supposed to be
yes,
in tribes. We are supposed to be in community. And what we've moved into is all of us putting ourselves in our own little concrete box, and that's our life. We don't live anywhere near our family. We're around different parts of the world, different parts of the country, and somehow we're supposed to just cope. And there's just two adults looking after a family, and
and
that's it.
working.
And working.
Yes,
And you've also got to somehow find time for health and fitness, seeing your friends, and making sure that your kids have got every opportunity possible. And it's like, that's ridiculous for two people when you used to have an entire village helping each
Yes.
other out. And so we've just got to the point now, and I think more and more people are realizing it, that we've just built a society that doesn't work. We've built
Mm.
structures that just don't work.
For
Um,
families. It works
so
nicely for single people. Though
yeah,
I guess for couples without children.
yeah, well, but then we have an absolute loneliness epidemic. Like, we have
Yes.
so many people who are desperately lonely because we've all just insulated. Like, we've all just gone insular, and we're in our own little houses or our flats, or just a room, living life through a screen, and we don't really have that close knit community. So, when
Mm.
you're a parent, or single parents out there, again, somehow they're supposed to do it all by themselves, and it's like, it's not how humans were meant to be. We're supposed to be
Yes.
helping each other.
We need the grandmothers, grandfathers, the aunties, the
Yeah,
sisters, the brothers, yeah.
yeah,
We need everyone doing
yeah,
different things.
absolutely. The friends is how it was always meant to be, and we've just moved so far away from that, and we've become so industrialized that the Industrial Revolution basically turned humans into worker bees. That's how we've kind of become, and now we're moving into it. Well, we've already moved into the digital age, where we're still expected to somehow function and create money and wealth, and that's what we've been told is important. Whereas we've just lost
Mm.
that community aspect. So from an employment point of view, yeah, it'd be great if everyone could just spend the first 2 years with their families. But it's never going to happen from a business perspective. Never.
No.
It's way too
No.
expensive.
Yeah.
But
Yes, it's a pipe dream.
yeah, but something
Yeah.
needs to change. And I've never understood why big companies, if they've got a big, I mean, it's not really that prominent anymore because not as many people are in the office. But if you've got a big company, why does it not have a crash? I've never
Well,
understood why.
universities have this. When I
Yeah.
worked at the University of Bath, there is an on-site nursery.
Wow.
So that's one thing.
Exactly. And that has always blown my mind. I'm like, if you're going to have 300 people working in a building, there's going to be quite a few of them with kids. It just makes it makes even business sense. Have the creche on site.
Yes. Have the
And
creche
then,
on site, have the gym on site, all the kind of
yes,
things.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Love it.
So, yeah, that's
Yes.
where we should be going.
Fantastic. Well, if we're gonna round this all up, but if there was just one thing listeners took away from this conversation, let's think about the listener who is a busy parent, working, and yeah, kind of wanting to know how to authentically show up, true to themselves, true to their families. What's the one thing they could take away?
If the first thing that comes to mind is you've got to drop the guilt. You've just got to drop the guilt that you're not doing enough, being enough, because that is crippling. And you'll never be able to shine as who you are meant to be if you are carrying around lots of guilt of, I'm not being a good enough parent, I'm not being a good enough employee. If you are doing the best you can with what you have, you're doing amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
honestly, and just, yeah, be kind to yourself. It's not easy juggling these roles. It's really not. So just give yourself a break and drop the guilt, because honestly, you're doing amazing. You're doing amazingly.
I love that. Yes, and there is so much parent guilt. So much. Parent
Mm,
guilt that you are not working enough, but then parent guilt that you're not spending enough time with your children and that you're not exercising and everything.
mm, yeah,
So work
exactly.
on dropping that guilt and yeah, I do the best that you can and then don't feel guilty.
Yeah, and just the best way to drop the guilt as well is like, make sure you're not, like, be careful what you're following on social media. Do not compare yourself to the gym mum that's like managed to spring back and do all this stuff, like, because she might have a multimillionaire husband behind payrolling everything, and she has a very different life to you. The same, just be very careful what you're following on social media, because what you see is a highlights reel, and you never see the true story in the background. So yeah,
Yes.
the dad's the same. I feel so sorry for dads now, because apparently they're supposed to be all beefy and burly and going to the gym and, you know, making 100 grand a year. And I'm like, oh my goodness, give them a break. Just
Yeah,
give them a break.
absolutely. Yes. Okay, that's really, really good advice. And now, just to tell everyone that you are also a human being. We're
Mhm.
all want to keep it real. If you're happy to share, you've shared lots about your past, and I'm really grateful that you did. But maybe currently, what is one of your imperfections?
To choose just one. Imperfections right now. I think, what would I say? It's interesting because imperfections, I'm like, yeah, well, we're all messy, like we're all imperfect, and that's great. I think for me, I constantly have a little bit of a battle in my head. I'm very, very ambitious, and I'm growing the business quite rapidly at the moment. And then there's this part of me that's like, I've only got 5 more years of my kids being in education, and you know, maybe, you know, it's like this push pull of like, I can now grow the business because they're older, but equally they're still my babies. And, you know, I'm already looking back and thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't take the full advantage of those baby years. And I don't want to get to 5 years down the line and go, oh my gosh, now they're leaving home and I didn't take advantage of those teenage years.
Mm,
So I think there's always, that's probably something that I have to be always consciously aware of like, right, where am I judging myself? Where am I living in fear that I'm making the wrong decision? And balancing where I want to take my life and my future, and how I want to make sure I'm spending time, you know, guiding my children and being there for them. So that's probably the thing
mm,
I still on
yes.
a daily basis have to sort of wrangle with.
So your ambition is generally always a few steps ahead of where you are in your life phase with your
Mm.
family. Perhaps you kind of
Yeah, I
very
mean,
strong drive on the ambition, which is also very positive, but very nice that you recognize that and you can keep it in check a little bit.
it's yeah, lack of patience is probably what I would call the imperfection bit. The lack of, I'm like, I want everything yesterday. Like I know where my life's going, and I'm like, yeah, but I want it now.
What's it now?
Yeah,
Now. Well, thank you for sharing, because, yeah, we are all human. We all have imperfections, and that's what this podcast is about. It's about the messiness of life.
yeah.
So that's wonderful. Before we wrap up, can you tell the listeners what kind of services you provide? And if they're interested, where can they find out a little bit more about you?
Yep. So the best place to find me is Instagram. I'm more active on there than anywhere else, and that's Heather Angell with 2 L's _. And my website is heatherangel.co.uk. And I help people primarily who have just got to that point in life where they're like, there's got to be more to life than this. So they've probably ticked a lot of boxes, like their life looks very successful on paper, but they just have that empty feeling sometimes of like, am I, is this it? Like, is this all there is? So they're kind of in that gap between knowing what they want and being able to get there. And I help people with a lot of emotional regulation and sort of counselling services on that side of things. If they're going through a bit of a tough time, helping them peel back those layers that we were talking about, so they can get to
Yes.
self-trust, self-acceptance, so that they can live an authentic life, knowing that they know who they are.
Wonderful. So very, very valuable. Thank you. So yeah, listeners, get in touch if that all sounds interesting. I'll put all those links in the show notes, so it's very easy to find.
Amazing.
But yeah, for now, Heather, thank you so much. It's been a really interesting conversation. I had actually so many more questions for you, but we just like rambled on because I was just in the conversation with you and I loved it.
Yeah, it's really fun. Thank you. We'll have to do another one on the work-life balance, I think.
Absolutely. We'll get you booked in again and we'll go down that a bit more specifically next time.
It's been
So
amazing. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
You too.
That was Heather Angell, everyone. What a fantastic conversation with her. Now, I guess think about a couple of things you could take away from this conversation. Are you showing up authentically? Are you trying to do the fake authentic thing on social media? No judgment. I've been there. But yeah, so take away what you like. I love talking to Heather. I had so many more questions to ask her actually. And like I literally asked her like a third of my questions, and then the conversation just swept me away and I wanted to keep talking about whatever we talked about. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And now, if you are liking my podcast, getting some value from it, please consider leaving me a rating and review on whatever app you use. This literally takes minutes and it is a free way in which you can support my show and means so much to me and will be really useful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So next week, I'll be coming back to you with another fresh episode. So have a lovely week and see you then.